Hey everybody, Dylan Distraction here, coming to you live from Batlantic Studios, doing a quick back to the drawing board, tell you about the Kickstarter campaign, do a little Q&A. If you have any questions, start thinking of them and type them in, and I will answer them to the best of my ability, bearing in mind I am not a professional, I am an amateur comic book creator, so any tips or tricks that I give you, I just got them from someone else. So yeah, please feel free to ask any questions you have. Like this video, thumbs up this video, share this video, comment below. I'm going to show you what's on my drawing table today. Going to give you a couple of quick book reviews. Going to tell you about the Kickstarter campaign, Archive of the Warhood Odyssey First Arc, which is currently 120% funded on Kickstarter. If you go to warhoododyssey.com, you can still pledge. We have 3 days left. Thank you to everybody that's backed it so far. So excited to share it with you. It's my best work yet. I know I say that because it's true. I want to try to improve with every project I do. I want to get better and push myself as an artist and writer and designer, and that's how I'm doing it, is by just making stuff and sharing it with you. So, questions. If you have any questions, please type them in below. I was just recently asked about like production, like publishing. I have years of experience in publishing, and I've worked on press, I've worked as a designer, I've worked on comic books, printing, drawing. So if you have any particular printing questions, I'll do my best to try to answer them. I was just recently asked about paper, what kind of drawing paper I use, what kind of pencils. Those are always things I'm interested in, other creators sharing with me. So if you want to know any of that stuff, let me know in the comments below. Thumbs up, like, share this video. Yeah, so I wouldn't spend a lot of time worrying about paper or worrying about pencils initially. As an artist, as a designer, really what you're going to initially want to be focusing on, and in my opinion, is just storytelling and mastering anatomy and perspective. Not even mastering, just becoming incredibly good at, competent. I don't think anybody ever masters those things personally. I know I never will. I'm always a work in progress and always trying to improve, but just trying to get comfortable with figures and expressions and hands and feet, muscles, anatomy, drawing inanimate objects, drawing the interiors of rooms. Those are all things that I'm constantly working on. I have sketchbooks filled with that stuff, and if you love doing it and you love drawing and creating and storytelling, then yeah, just sit on the couch and start drawing. Don't worry initially about paper quality or what printer or what scanner or what pencils or what pens. Hey Adam, hey Jerry, do you bring your physical artboards to the printer, or is it better to scan and bring them? Yes, that's a great question. So let's talk about paper a little bit, just because initially process is secondary. First, focus on becoming comfortable drawing, finding out what works for you. Comic books can be anything, and so sequential art is really up to you. What stories do you have? Do you want to tell? What's important to you? But for me, I can speak about what I do. So I use this paper, Canson, right? This is, and of course, it's going to be flipped because of the camera, but this paper is 11 by 17. It's Bristol. It's got like a medium tooth, and that just means that it's not super glossy. It has a little bit of grit to it, so it holds pencils well, I feel. It's 150 pounds, 24 sheets, 11 by 17. Oh, and it's ruled for comic book production. So you'll see, anytime I'm showing you paper, see how it has like that blue, it shows you where the bleed and trim are. This is that's a good question. I don't know if it is the 400 or 200. I've gotten also paper from the Kubert store. If you go online, go to Kubert store, which is the Joe Kubert School of Sequential Art in Dover, New Jersey, which I attended briefly for an adult education class, which was awesome. I'm going to go back to it again. But they have a store there, and they're very helpful, and they can answer specific questions. They have different weight paper. So yeah, initially just, I think any 11 by 17 Bristol that you use, as you experiment with it, you might like some brands more than others. You might like some sizes differently. I know Eric Larson's now working at a much larger size and reducing down Sean Murphy works at a much smaller size and reduces up. So it's really a preference thing, but I would draw on those boards. And what does that look like? Well, that's a good question. If I'm penciling on a board, it looks something like this, right? So you've seen me post images before of my artwork. This is different. There's different densities of graphite. So there's H and 2H and B. HB is kind of the middle of the road. So HB is most pencils come in HB, which is great. It can be dark enough if you push down really hard, or it can be light enough if you're sketchy with it. I find that it's a little too soft for me. I don't like HB as much, so I get like these sort of pencils, and I put in either H, and I'll usually just write on it what it is. Not that that's ever incredibly accurate, but this one's H, so it's a little bit stiffer than an HB. 2H would even be firmer than that. You'd have to press down pretty hard to get a 2H or 4H to be dark. But I also will use blue pencils. So you've seen me draw with these before too. So this is another pencil, and with these you have a blue, it's kind of like a crayon almost. It's waxy. So I'll put down a blue line and graphite, and just because I'm crazy like that, we'll go with red. So this one is red. And the great thing about being able to do underdrawings with blue lines or with red lines is that once you scan, you can remove them more easily. I've had a little bit of difficulty removing red lines because they tend to be darker than the blue lines, but not impossible. It's just a matter of adjusting levels in Photoshop. Tons of different pencils, especially for life. Yeah, it's great to be able to have a variety of pencils, and it depends on what you're doing. And if you can, the thing I'm always trying to strive for is creating a consistent process, right? I want to be able to start and finish 24 to 28 pages and have it look like the same product from beginning to end. And that's initially, when you start out, a little tricky because you'll change what you like to do and how you like to do it as you move through the comic. So yeah, consistency is always important. So having paper that you like, I like that paper, works good enough. Having pencils I like those pencils. I like these sort of clicky pencils, technical pencils, right? They're I don't know, the Pentel Twist Erase .5 is what I'm using right now. I like them because they have a substantial eraser. They're not too thin. I don't like really thin pencils. I have bigger hands. I like a little bit bigger pencil, which is why I put these sort of pencil holders on these clutch pencils. Erasers, yeah, we got gummy erasers. We got these kinds of erasers. Those are all pretty standard. Most art stores will have stuff like that, or Cubert store online. And then of course I like these because you can get a little more detailed with your eraser. So that's pencils and paper. Now, as far as taking your artboards to a printer, it's a good question. I don't think they'd want you to do that. I think they'd probably want you to scan your boards, and then of course I use the Adobe Creative Suite, which is the software I use on a Mac. I use Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign, and there are other programs out there, but those are the ones I've always used. So what you do is scan your boards, right? So you draw on or 11 by 17 board, bearing in mind what the bleed and the trim will be, and pencil it, and then ink it. Now, I've been doing different things with inking. Of course, there are markers, right? I mean, pretty much anything that puts down a black line that you're happy with. I have these sort of watercolor brushes, right? You can fill these with diluted ink. And then, of course, there are brush pens. I get a lot of these sort of pens at jetpens.com. And the great thing about inking supplies is, again, it's just about recreating what's in your head. So if you want to use foliage, you want to create foliage or grit, or, you know, I use whatever. I use ink to think right now, and brushes to try to create like grit or dust or foliage or leaves or trees. You use different rulers, pens, technical pens when you're trying to do, this is a ruler that you can draw parallel lines easily with. If you're doing buildings or structures. So yeah, just whatever tells your story effectively. That's what I use for inking. So what else? Any other questions? Any other things you want to know about? Oh, okay, so scanning. I use an Epson 7610, which is like a scanner printer combo. Now, the great thing about that scanner is it's big. You can fit an entire 11 by 17 sheet on the glass. You don't have to try to scan it in two parts and stitch it together, which never works. So get a large scanner. So then once you scan it, you bring it into Photoshop, adjust the levels, make sure that everything is cleaned up the way that you intended it to look. You can go in and add effects in Photoshop. And then I bring it from Photoshop into InDesign. And in InDesign, where you drop in the text, it's where you paginate everything, which is making sure that it's in the order that you intended it to be. And once you have it in InDesign, you can add in, if you make logos in Illustrator, you can drop them in InDesign. And then you export as a PDF. PDF is portable document format. That is the most standard way that people would trade files, at least comic book files, which is usually if you're like a CBR file or a CBZ file, that's just a PDF, different naming convention. So then you take those PDFs and either Dropbox them if they're too large, or put them on a thumb drive, or email them if they're small, if it's just a couple pages, to a printer. Now, printers I've used RA Print. I've been in contact with Kraken Print, and there's a bunch out there. Some people go directly to China. Some people like to print locally. You can go to a local copy shop and just get them printed off if that's all you want to do. And then that's a comic book. You know, once it's saddle stitched, which is where you staple along the edge, that's a comic book. So yeah, are there any other questions about that, about printing, about production? I know that those are probably kind of inside baseball sort of things. I don't know if a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so fascinated with print production. Well, I love publishing. I love printed stuff. So a lot of that really does interest me. I like being on press. I like seeing a web press. I like seeing offset press. I like seeing all that stuff being produced in front of me. You have an MFC cool. Print and scan 11 by 17. Yeah, that's kind of the standard size. Anything, the standard, it's funny because I was looking at scanners, and just a standalone scanner, more expensive than a scanner printer combo. I'm assuming because they want you to purchase ink, and they assume that the ink will make up for the cost of having just a standard scanner. My printer is a Canon Pro 100. I use that to print blue lines. So I can show you here. This underdrawing is blue line, so printed and then inked over it. Now, a lot of people are doing that because they like having two separate copies. They want to have a pencil copy and they want to have an ink copy. You can sell two different originals. They're both originals. So the great thing about being able to print blue lines onto a board is if you screw up, you just throw it out. You still have the original. You just print off another one. So if you have any other questions, please let me know. Please like, thumbs up, share this video. I could show you some of my stretch goals. WarhoodOdyssey.com is where you go to the Kickstarter campaign. We currently have unlocked 3 stretch goals. We have the bumper sticker, we have the logo sticker, we have the signed print. Those are all rewards that are going to be going to physical backers. We're 120% funded for this Kickstarter campaign, so please, if you haven't yet, please check it out, WarhoodOdyssey.com, to back the project. I'm thrilled to be able to make comics, and I'm happy to answer any of the questions if anybody has anything, and if not, you can message me later. I'll try to answer any questions that you have. Resources. I was going to show you some resources quick. I love 90s comics. That's kind of what I'm trying to recreate with my archived Warhood Odyssey comic series at Batlantic Studios. I'm trying to, that magic that the 90s comics had. So this documentary, Image Revolution, yeah, everybody should watch this. It really shows how fun and chaotic and crazy that time was for artists and readers. I think it really captures kind of the messy rock star, hyper-masculine foil variant covers, polybag that the 90s had. And I think that it's important to respect that time. I know a lot of people see it as kind of, silly throwaway, but that was a lot of people's introduction to comics. You know, it was that Jack Kirby, New Gods, just mega, like, we're going to take that and we're going to make it that much more crazy and intense and over the top, and that's what Image Comics and that's what 90s comics are to me, and that's what I want to try to recreate with my work. So, other resources. How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. If you don't have this, you should have it. This is from when I was a kid. This is my copy from when I was a kid, and yeah, I've always used it. I refer back to it. It's still a great resource. These I purchased at my local comic shop, Coast City Comics. These are Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics, Making Comics, Reinventing Comics. These are a great resource if you want to know more about everything comic book related. It gets pretty deep about what comics are, what they can be, and inspiring. I think those 3 books right there, if you don't want to make comics after reading those, then there's something wrong with you, because those books are just, that's why you make comics. Okay, so more resources. This is a good one, the DC Comics Guide to Creating Comics. There's a few of these different DC Creating Comics editions. I think they're great. I use them all the time. And then, of course, Superheroes. This is a Joe Kubert School, which I mentioned before. Great resource. And then, if you love comic books and you love artists like Mark Silvestri, this is the art of Mark Silvestri. Tyler Kirkham, this is his book, Separations, which is, he's incredible. You should definitely support artists, buy their work, buy their comics, and look at their art books, because there are a lot of books created to highlight and showcase artists' work, and that's just a couple of them. There's many more. Go to your local comic shop. Mine's Coast City Comics, and ask your comic book shop owner to order comic books for you from creators that you love. It's just that simple. If you support comics and you love comics, then that's what you got to do. So, if you have any other questions, let me know. If not, please like, share, thumbs up. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I really appreciate it. WarhoodOdyssey.com to back the Kickstarter. I don't know what else to tell you. I think I told you everything. Everything that's in front of me, I've shared with you. I really appreciate it. Back to the drawing board. Batlantic Studios. See ya!